Hello, my name is Steve Tomboni. I'm the CEO and head coach of Life Changing Finish Lines, and I want to welcome you to this vid entitled Your 70.3. Of course, I'm old enough that we used to call it a half Ironman triathlon. You can call it whatever you like. It's 70.3 miles of HE double hockey stick. So, to kind of give you a little bit of background here, we're going to get into, I've done 6 half Ironmans, 70.3s as an athlete, and I think I've owned a dozen and been the race director. And I've coached, I can't even tell you how many people have either followed the advice or not followed the advice. I can tell you that the first time they didn't follow the advice, the second time they did. So we'll go there. Let's be honest, I didn't even follow the advice of the first time I did it from my mentors, and particularly Dr. Frank Krause, when he asked me, what are you eating on the bike? And I said, I don't have time to eat, I'm going fast. I'll tell you how stupid that was. So when we get into this, down at the end, I'm going to talk about my first one, which was literally the worst thing I've ever done in my entire life. And the fifth one out of the 6 that I did almost everything perfectly, right? I mean, I just had such an amazing day. But 1 through 4 was a massive learning process, which is why you never want to do one and done. And kind of how I got to number 5, making what I thought was 0 mistakes other than the 2 IVs at the end, but we won't get there. All right, so in the 70.3 world, I've literally done everything there is to do. I started out as a volunteer. I was the swim course director, assistant race director, board member, volunteered, was in a kayak, was on the beach as a lifeguard, rode, was a course marshal in the back of a motorcycle at a 95-degree day. So I've kind of been there, done that, race director of Worlds, race director of Nationals twice, and about everything in between. So a little bit of a recap right here. So I've done the race, Muncie 70.3 6 times. 2 of them were really ugly. 2, I can't believe I actually survived. The second time I actually got off the bike and it was 100 degrees in 1995. 2 of them, I would say I made reasonably decent pile of mistakes, a really decent pile of good decisions, but it just wasn't my day. The first one was 5:52, and my best one, which was number 5, was 4:57.05. And listen, I tell you the 05 part because that's still 4:57.05. My goal is to go under 5 hours my entire life, right? We'll get into the good, the bad, and the ugly part of that. So, you know, doing a 70.3, okay? It takes, what I always tell people is that the swim needs to be very comfortable. For those of you that are not swimmers out there, I don't care who you get a swim coach. Because if you're using more than, and I've, for years and years of experience, if you're using more than 5% of your energy, it's going to be a long day. For me, as a swimmer, that's a warm-up. 2,200 yards. If I've done this right, if I've done my training, we'll talk about all those sorts of things. But I don't even get to going until it's about 1,500 meters, and I've warmed up quite a bit. And I just love the swim. I mean, I love to get out there, and I literally feel like $1 million when I get out of the water. So if you're getting out of the water and you're feeling like you've been praying you've been praying out there a lot and you feel like a bus ran you over, you need to go back the next year and swim a whole lot more than what you did. So then when it comes to the bike, I mean, and again, we'll talk about the specifics of each one of those 2,200 yard swim, you know, the 56 mile bike and a 13.1 mile run. I always tell everybody that in a 70.3, it's a swim followed by a 56 and 13.1. It's not a 56, take a nap, eat a cheeseburger, you know, talk to your friends. It's 56, jump off that bike and like somebody shot you out of a gun, do that first mile. It is 56 and 13. There's really no gap in there because it's all leg, it's all your plan to eat and drink, it's all your spirit, your emotion, why you're there. That we'll talk about that too. So, you know, it is one word, bike run. Remember that, it's bike run. It's not bike, run, no. Particularly when you get to a course like Muncie, and at some point we can talk about Muncie particularly. I'll have another separate video that's just about Muncie and the unique challenges of Muncie. There's a giant pile of amazing stuff and a giant pile of really challenging stuff. And the run course is ugly. All right, so again, what we talked about, 5% of your energy in the water, about 30%, 35% of your energy on the bike. And again, think about that. That's the longest amount of time you're out there. It's 56 miles, 2.5 hours, 3.5 hours, 4.5 hours, whatever. That's a long time, but you've still got to figure out how to only use a maximum of 35% of your energy. So how do you do that? Well, A, you make sure you train a lot. I rode the bike 100 to 125, 150 miles a week for months before the race. I cheated because I live out here, so I got out onto the course as often as I possibly could and rode the course. That's a little hard to do now that it's on State Road 35 a lot, but I would still ride 50s, 60s, 70s with nutrition plans and hydration plans and all that fun stuff. But you gotta try to figure out how to be super comfortable on that bike for 56 miles. Again, down the road, we'll talk about bike fit with some of my bike fit friends, and we'll have them standing right here, and we'll go to their shops and we'll talk about bike fit and how amazing that is to do it right. Because let me tell you, when you do it wrong and you have the wrong geometry, listen, that's okay maybe for the first 40 miles, but the last 16, if your geometry sucks, things are gonna fall off. And you're gonna pull and push and wiggle and fuss, and things are gonna hurt. And when you get off that bike, now you've used 80% of your energy when you needed 60. And I'm not kidding you, the run needs 60. Because look, you're only as strong as a runner as your weakest muscle. Again, another vid for that. But you gotta be able to get off that bike after 56 miles, having eaten and drank, and it sat in your stomach. There's some other kind of gross things we'll talk about, but it's gotta sit in your stomach, what you've got in there, because you're gonna run 13.1 miles, particularly in Muncie, of a very hilly course. And people don't realize that it's hilly. It's just non-stop rollers, which can crush you if you don't know what you're doing, and can crush your nutrition plan if you don't know what you're doing. So you got to figure out how to ride that bike and feel like $1 million. Good form, the right bike, the right fit, the right food. A lot of times what I did was I wrote down, I'm one of those guys who writes down everything, right? So 6 months before the race, I would go on a 60-mile ride and I would write down what I ate. Hey, and then I'd always got off the bike and ran at least a mile, 2, sometimes 3. I had a little brick in mind because I needed to make sure my T2, whatever I ate, sat on my stomach, and you'll figure that out in the first mile or two. If you happen to see it again, that's a bad day. So yeah, you just got to practice these things so that when you get off that bike, you don't see it again, because again, I've done that, and we'll get into the first one and how bad that was. So, you know, what I tell people a lot at times when it comes to a 70.3, I mean, it's an amazing life-changing finish line, right? It's the name of the company, Life-Changing Finish Lines. So I always start with the process with the end in mind. So literally it's post-race. How am I getting home? What am I eating? What am I drinking after the race? Who's gonna be there? Who's taking the pictures? Whose backseat am I laying in on the way home? Who's packing the bike? I mean, all those big detail things, right? Can't tell you how many times I've told people without a plan, you plan to fail. So if you don't have a post-race plan, in your mind, you're not going to have a good race because you don't know what's going to happen. And there's lots of factors in here, right? But again, bring somebody with you to the race. Have a Sherpa. I've had some amazing family members over the years that have Sherpa'd for me at these races and made sure I, got to the medical tent and I had an entire pizza and lots of beverages, adult beverages mostly. And so there's that, right? So another thing is post-race clothing. Back in the day, we really didn't have showers out there that were really all that big a deal, but now there are, and that's amazing. So I want totally comfortable stuff. I'm gonna have some Vaseline and some other stuff in case things have kind of come off. Compression socks, compression pants, a hat if it's gonna be hot, a tank top if it's gonna be hot. Whatever. I think about all that post-race clothing stuff because I'm gonna change clothes right after. And I'm gonna eat. I can't tell you how many times I've went to the Y literally later in the afternoon after the race. And I didn't get to do that very often, but I lost 10, 12 pounds. So I'm hungry, I'm eating. They provide post-race food, but I'm eating. I'm having an entire pizza. So make sure you have food, make sure you have drink, because again, it's not always about water, it's replacement electrolytes, and it's, all those sorts of things. So have plenty of that in mind. The drive back home is a really big deal because of DVTs, deep vein thrombosis, and all those sort of, in that family of problems. So I always have a plan for, I literally used to set an alarm on my watch so that if I was having to drive home, I'd get out of the car after 45 minutes or whatever and walk around a little bit. And I've done marathons where it was, Chicago, Columbus, and we would set alarms. So we would get out of the car 2 hours after the race and walk around. I'll be honest with you, we were stopping at a liquor store and I took a couple laps around it, but that's a whole other story. And again, make sure you've got pictures, because to look back on my friends and their families after all these years and have done all those races together, it's super fun to get together. But pictures are a really big deal, and you can't always count on the race to just have the finish line photo. That to me, that's not what it's all about. It's family that's around and your friends and your teammates and all that. So the other part is now we've got to race day. We'll talk about race day and all the planning that goes into what you're doing on race day. That's a whole nother video. But right now, one of the most important things to do in a 70.3 is choose the right race. So I have an athlete this year that's going to go to Michigan 70.3. And so even now, we're going backwards. Okay. He's going to have a big old calendar. I always tell people that if you can do 75% of what you have planned, that should be enough. 75% on a weekly basis, 75% of what's planned on a monthly basis. That number gets a little higher the closer you get to race month. You want to be doing 85%, you want to be doing 90%. The last thing you're going to do 3 weeks before the race is skip the 60 and 9 that you have planned, because that's a really big mental, riding 60 miles and getting off and running 9. Don't skip that one. That's a must. So choose the right race for you, right? Because in your coach's mind, you and my mind, I'm saying, where are you distance-wise for all of these? How far out do we have to go? Let's remember, we're not violating the 10% rule in the maximum distance per week or the longest distance per week, right? So you got to kind of go backwards. I can't tell you how many people have come to me on January 1st of whatever year and say, I think I'm going to go down to the South, and I'm going to do an Ironman on April 15th. Okay, how do you plan on riding in the Midwest 125 miles a week, 150 miles a week? Oh, I'm just going to sit in the trainer. Really? Dude, that's not how this is going to work. Its geometry is different. And what was your longest swim last week? Oh, I haven't swam in 2 weeks. I haven't swam in 2 months. At the end of the season, I stopped swimming. well, you're really going to do Ironman something, something in April, and you only have 4 months to get 3.5 months to get ready, and you're at 0 swim, and your swim is a 5 of a 10 scale anyway. Dude, the 5% rule is not going to work for you. That's not enough time. Choose another race. Now, on occasion, I would say 50% of the time, those athletes have said, you don't know what he's talking about. And then they get there and they don't finish the swim. They don't finish the bike. They walk the entire run and they don't finish under the cutoff. That's about 75% of those people. And the other ones are 16, 17, and you never see them again. Their attitude is completely shot out the window because we're not ready. They chose the wrong race. They chose a race that was good for their family's vacation schedule and their need to be in the sun in spring break, but they didn't choose the one that fit for them, physically and not violating the 10% rule. I mean, I love those people that, you see them on Saturday morning and at the 7 a.m. run on a Saturday morning, and it's 7 a.m. and everybody's running 4 and you show up and they're standing there sweating like a pig because they've been there since 5 and they ran 8 already and now they're running 12, and you ask them, well, what'd you run last Saturday? Well, I ran 4 last Saturday. You ran 4 last Saturday and you ran 12 this Saturday? Really, you're shitting me. How'd that go for you? And then you don't see them for 2 weeks. And then they had IT band syndrome. They had chronic fatigue syndrome. Their attitude sucked. Well, no kidding, right? I got sick as a dog. Well, you went up the mountain too fast and you got French fried. So don't do that. So the right race. Recon the race if you can. So I just had a conversation with one of my athletes about, I don't give a damn how far away this race is. If that's going to be your race for the year and it's in Colorado, get out to Colorado and go check out the course. Look at it, ride it, walk it, something. But recon where you're going to be. It's a really big deal mentally to know what you're coming after. I hate showing up completely dry and have no clue. I've never done this race before. Back the first time I did the Hilly 100 in southern Indiana, and everybody said it's hilly as all get out, and I was like, it was so hilly. But the attitude, I'm never getting off my bike. I was praying for a 33 up front instead of the 42 I had, let me tell you. So recon, a gym membership. Look, at a 70.3 athlete, you're going to be swimming in their pool. You're going to be riding in their cycling classes and riding their bikes. You're going to be walking or riding the treadmills. You're going to be lifting weights. You're going to be running from there, swimming from there, taking showers, do all that stuff. Look, I don't give a damn what it costs. My YMCA membership right now is $59 for my family. I mean, literally, there's 4 of us, and we're there 5 days a week, all 4. I mean, come on, it's 12 cents, it's 4 cents, whatever the number is. Get a gym membership. Don't penny pinch on that part because you're going to find that the value is amazing. Look, when you're spending $100 on tires and you're spending $600 in this race, be ready. Quit messing around. And the excuse that, I've already spent a bunch of money anyway, then you're not serious about actually wanting to get to the finish line. You're just making this a financial decision, not a fitness decision, which is a whole nother vid. And one of the last things is find training partners. So I love to connect my athletes. Hey, I got 20 people going to this race. I got 14 people going to this race. I got 9 people doing this. I got 13 people doing the Columbus Marathon. Find training partners. It just makes the whole training process way more fun. And obviously race day is super cool. When I did Ironman Florida, there were 11 of us in the same jersey and we'd all train together. It was super fun. And we cussed each other out every time we saw each other the whole days. We went back and forth and out and back. And oh my God, I hate you, lose my phone number, all that. But it was a blast. Find training partners. Again, the accountability part of, on any given week, I could find somebody that was running 8 on Thursday and we were all get together and swim on Saturdays and we all did the same little sprints and warm-ups and fun stuff. It's a really big deal. All right, so I promised you the bad and the good. So let's do the good first. My fifth race was 4:57.05. Year before it was 5:03 flat. One mistake. Wrong gel at mile 11 and a half of the run. Couldn't gag that sucker down. Felt like a bus had ran me over. It was uphill the whole rest of the way. Bunch of rollers from mile 12 and a half, 11 and a half, 11 and a half to 13.1. Wheels totally came off. One gel. One gel short of my goal of breaking 4 hours. So you know what I did the next year. I just took my giant list of here's all the good things and the bad things. You do that every race, right? Every race you put to make a list of here's all the dumb shit stuff I did, and here's all the stuff that I did right. Notice that my hand didn't go down. Dumb shit list, good list. More times you do the race, the more times it does like this. But you literally got to do that after the race. That evening, over pizza with your buddies, post-race, you're starting to take notes. Because let me tell you, when we get to my first time I did the Muncie Ironman 70.3, the list looked like this, and there was just one thing up here. I finished. That was it. That was all I did right. Literally, that's all I did right. I finished. Everything else was a train wreck. So, I started doing this the next year, and I started doing this and this. But my last race, right? So my fifth race, the best one. Mile 11 and a half, I had 2 of my favorite gels left. 2, not 1 in case I dropped one. Backup plan, Boy Scout, all that, right? So I, Cliff Shot Mocha, loved it. Took that at mile 11 and a half, still running 7s, felt like $1,000,000. Got to the top of the last hill, the last big one. Took that left, I was at 11 and a half, felt great. And I had that 1 extra gel in my back pocket so that I knew if the wheels started coming off, because it's all about nutrition when you get to 70.3. That's a whole nother, it's a whole nother video, but it's all about nutrition, what you ate on the bike, what you ate before the swim, what you ate for breakfast, what you ate the night before, yada, yada. Listen, I've made every mistake there is, so there you go. But I had that 1 extra gel in my back pocket, and there was an aid station at 12 with 1.1 to go. And I thought, I'm really feeling good. I want to keep that feeling. I had that extra gel, and I thought, well, there's no reason just to carry it with me. I feel great. Obviously you take gels and water as a combo to get it washed into your system. Took that gel at 12, another Cliff Shot Mocha, thumbs up for Cliff Shot. I love them things. And I felt like $1,000,000. I powered up the last hill. I felt awesome. I got to the top of that hill. I could see the clock said 4:57, and I just dropped the hammer. Now, yes, I was in the medical tent, got 2 IVs, almost blacked out, yada, yada, all that stuff, right? But that last gel, that extra one, felt great. Awesome swim, plenty of fuel on the bike, hydrated my brains out. Had, a whole bunch of gels with me for the run and a little pouch in my back. It was awesome. Best race of my life, literally. As opposed to the first one. So the first one, 25 mile an hour wind. I am, I was 34 years old, first half Ironman, second year in the sport, and I thought I knew everything. No food on the bike. Put a disc wheel on in a 25 mile an hour wind. Didn't calibrate it to the front derailleur and the back derailleur. So first hill I went up significantly. Then I dropped it from the 53 to the 42. Chain comes off. My booty's laying on the ground. Wrecked the bike the first time up the hill. Laying there. Went down, did my judo stuff. I didn't hit too hard. Kind of was embarrassed. But I'd get back up and jump back on the bike, and it didn't dawn on me what I'd done because I was just so focused. But remember, I had no food. I was just drinking the water from the aid stations or the Gatorade they gave me, and that's it. Of course, again, I told you my mentor told me to eat on the bike, and I'm like, I don't need to eat on the bike. It's all, no. And I rode the course 11 times. It just never dawned on me that I always had like a candy bar with me or Snickers or something while I was training. And I just never thought, it just didn't dawn on me how important nutrition was on the bike for 56 and 13. So it's 2 laps on the bike, right? So windy day, sucks beyond belief. My time is out the freaking window. I'm pedaling my brains out. I had a good swim. I kept, looking back on it, I was still in the 5%, 10% of my energy. I'm a swimmer, so no big deal, right? But no, I was at 90% of my energy gone at the end of the bike. Because the second time around, I wrecked in the exact same place. The chain came off in the exact same place. And this time I just didn't go down hard, didn't move my shoulder around fast enough and drilled my wrist on the ground. I am laying there, second wreck in my first half Ironman, questioning everything I've ever done in my life. Lord, why am I laying here? God, why did you put me here? I can't get back up. I think I'm going to die. But of course, I got back up on the bike and limped it back in. It felt like a complete idiot. And then I got off of the bike and it got really ugly. Okay? So it wasn't super hot in the beginning. So I almost didn't make it to the first aid station because I realized that I did not eat enough. So the world is doing this. And my stride goes, it's down to about this big, right? This big. Get to the first aid station. Pretzels, orange slices, banana, Gatorade, horse trough. I don't give a shit. I ate everything there was. Lights, come on. Boom, I feel like $1 million. I'm a 620 runner, so lights come on. I'm like, okay, I'm good, no worries. I can see the second aid station. Right before I get there, same thing starts happening. Lights are going out. Literally, I felt like a video game where the little energy chip was going chink, 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 chink. Same thing in the second aid station. Eat and drink everything inside. Lights come back on. Unfortunately, I didn't get as far as I did the first time. So I'm feeling worse and worse at every aid station, trying to eat more and more, and it's not really working, but I'm at least getting, 3/4 of a mile, a half a mile before I feel like a bus is running me over. Get to the turnaround. Skies part, sun comes out, 95 degrees. You've got to be kidding me. So now I have no food in me. My pace stinks and it's hotter than blue blazes. I have 6.5 miles to go. Yeah, it was ugly. To say it was ugly, it was ugly. So I get to 12 somehow, and I realize I have 1.1 miles to go. There's no more aid stations between 12 and 13.1. Yes, folks, the finish line is 13.1, not 13.0, not 12.9, 13.1. And at the end, it was uphill. Yeah, I almost didn't make it. So I get to the finish in 5:52. My half marathon PR that year was 133. Terrible run, like 2:45 or something. Stagger over to I probably should have went to the medical tent, but I didn't know how to do that. I didn't even know where it was. And I just went and found some food and, that sort of thing. I'm sitting next to a tree. I was pretty much the color of white printer paper. My training partner, Dr. Krause, comes up. He got there. I think he was a 5'12" maybe. And he's like, man, you look really bad there. Are you okay? And I was like, dude, I feel awful. And he starts laughing. He says, I bet your ass is going to eat on the bike next year. And I was like, if I could throw something at you and hit you hard enough to hurt you, I would, but I can't move. So we laugh, and we still laugh about it to this day, that I didn't take any of his advice at all. And the next year, it was 95 degrees. Out of the water, it was 100 off of the bike, and I still went 5:36, and I walked for 1.5 miles. It was so hot. First time I'd ever walked in my life. But I went from 5:52, and then I ate on the bike the second year. I went 5:36. I had a great race, except for that middle part where it was just blue blazing hot. So that's kind of, in a nutshell, the 70.3 background that I'll bring to the table. I am excited to have you as an athlete and take you on this journey to your first 70.3. Again, Steve Tomboni here with Life Changing Finish Lines. I think I'm supposed to say subscribe to the YouTube channel, link to this, link to that, whatever. Enjoy. See you at the race.